Come sit, child. I have a story your heart has been waiting for.
All my life, I thought my family was poor. We lived in a tiny, creaking house at the edge of town. The walls were thin, the winters were cold, and every month ended with the same sentence from my grandmother: "We don't have the money for that." So I grew up believing we had nothing. But one night, when I decided to follow my grandfather in secret, I found out two things. First, my grandfather was a mafia boss. And second, we were never poor. This is the story of how I discovered the truth my family tried to hide from me. I remember the sound of coins. Not notes. Not cards. Just coins. Grandma would sit at the small kitchen table every Sunday night, emptying an old glass jar. She'd count each coin under her breath, lips moving silently, occasionally stopping to massage the bridge of her nose when the numbers didn't add up. The fridge was never full. The shoes I wore to school always seemed one size too small. Birthdays meant a simple cake, if we could afford flour and sugar that month. Grandpa, though, he was different. He didn't talk much. He'd sit in his old armchair, eyes half closed, listening more than he spoke. His hands were rough, but his clothes were always strangely neat. Clean shoes. Pressed shirt. And on his left hand, a ring that never seemed to tarnish, no matter how poor we were. Sometimes, I'd catch him staring out the window at nothing. Not the trees. Not the sky. Just distance. Like he was remembering another life. Whenever I asked about money, he would smile softly and say the same thing. "Rich or poor, boy, we have enough." But it never felt like enough. The first time I realized something was off, I was 12. Grandma was at the table, crying over an unpaid bill. I watched her hands shake as she tried to decide which envelope she could ignore for another week. A car pulled up outside. Not like the rusty ones in our neighborhood. This one was black, polished, and silent. Two men in dark coats stepped out, walked to our door, and knocked. I remember the way Grandma's face changed. The fear. Then, quickly, the anger. "You go to your room," she whispered. "Now." I did what she said, but I left the door slightly open. The men didn't stay long. I heard low voices. My grandfather's name, something about respect, something about a meeting. When the door finally closed, I peeked out. Grandpa was holding an envelope. Thick. Heavy. Too full to be just paper. He saw me watching, and our eyes met. For a second, I saw something I had never seen in him before. Not anger. Not fear. Authority. Then he slipped the envelope inside his coat, patted my shoulder, and walked past me like nothing had happened. That night, Grandma didn't count coins at the table. But she also didn't smile. Years passed. Little clues kept piling up. Strange phone calls, always after midnight. Expensive-looking men visiting our tiny, poor house. Grandpa disappearing for hours, always returning with the same calm expression. By the time I was 17, curiosity had turned into an obsession. One rainy evening, just after dinner, Grandpa stood up from his chair, put on his old gray coat, and reached for the door. "I won't be late," he said. Something inside me decided, tonight is the night. I waited 10 seconds after the door closed, then grabbed my own jacket. Grandma called from the kitchen, "Where are you going?" "Just, for some air." I shouted back. The air that night felt heavier than usual. I kept my distance, staying in the shadows, my heart beating a little too fast as I followed Grandpa down streets I had never seen him walk before. He didn't limp. He didn't stumble. He walked with the confidence of a man who expected the world to move out of his way. We passed the bus stop, the grocery store, the church. Then he turned into a part of town I'd only heard about in whispers. The kind of place people mentioned quietly, followed by, "We don't go there." The lights were dimmer. The buildings taller. At the end of the street stood an old brick building with blacked-out windows and a steel door. Grandpa approached. The door opened before he even knocked. A man in a suit stepped aside and nodded. "Evening, boss," he said. "Boss. Not, sir. Not, mister. Boss." My blood ran cold. I slipped behind a parked car, barely daring to breathe. The door closed behind my grandfather, swallowing him into the building. Through a narrow side window, I could see shapes, shadows, movement. Men in suits. Tables. A briefcase opening, the flash of something that looked like stacks of money. I edged closer, my shoes sounding too loud on the wet pavement. Another window, higher this time. I found a trash bin, dragged it beneath the glass, and climbed just high enough to peek inside. What I saw didn't match the life I knew. A long, polished table. Men seated on either side, all staring at my grandfather at the head. He wasn't quiet there. He wasn't small. He was, in command. He spoke slowly, with the same calm voice he used with me, but there was steel in it now. "No unnecessary violence," I heard him say. "We do things clean. We do things smart. Family first. Always." One of the men objected. Something about more power, more territory. Grandpa's eyes hardened. "You forget who built this," he said. "You forget whose name keeps you alive." The room went silent. In that silence, I finally understood. My grandfather wasn't just involved. He led them. He was the man everyone feared, and followed. They all left the room slowly, chairs scraping, murmurs fading into the hallway until the door clicked shut. It was just us. My grandfather. And the boy who thought he knew him. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The room felt too big, too quiet. The stacks of money on the table suddenly looked smaller than the distance between us. He was the first to move. He took off his ring and placed it gently on the table, right between us. The same ring I'd seen my entire life. The one I thought was just old. "You shouldn't have followed me," he said softly. It wasn't a threat. It was disappointment. Worry. Maybe both. I felt something inside me snap. "You shouldn't have lied to us," I shot back. My voice came out louder than I meant it to. It echoed in the room full of secrets. "All these years, you watched us live like we had nothing. You watched Grandma cry. You watched me pretend I was okay with having less than everyone else." He looked at me then. Really looked. Like he was finally seeing the damage. "That was the point," he murmured. "The point?" I almost laughed. "The point was for your family to suffer." His shoulders slumped, just a little. "The point was for you to live," he said. "To grow up far away from this." I shook my head, eyes burning. "You don't get to say that," I whispered. "You don't get to say you did this for me while I remember nights where we didn't know how we'd pay for heat. Do you know what it's like watching Grandma count coins and tell me we can't afford basic things, when you're sitting on this?" I gestured at the room. "The money. The power. I know exactly what it's like," he replied quietly. "Because I was the one who asked her to do it." I stared at him, unable to breathe for a second. So she knew, I said. She knew we weren't really poor. He nodded once. Slowly. She knew who I was before you were born. She knew what I'd done. Every bruise. Every scar. Every name they gave me out there. He tilted his head toward the door. And she made me promise one thing, that this life would stop with me. That you would never grow up thinking this kind of power was something to be proud of. Tears blurred my vision. So instead, I said, you let me grow up thinking we were helpless. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if the words physically hurt. I thought, he swallowed, his voice unsteady for the first time. I thought if you felt the weight of not having enough, you'd learn to be grateful for small things. Honest things. I thought if I kept this world far away from you, you'd never be tempted by it. I took a shaky breath. You could have trusted me, I whispered. You could have told me the truth. He looked older then. Not like the man at the head of the table. Like the man in the worn-out armchair at home. I didn't trust myself, he said. I was afraid that if you saw all of this, and knew it was yours one day, you might want it. And I couldn't bear the thought of you becoming me. Silence settled between us, heavy and fragile. For the first time, I saw his guilt. His fear. His love twisted into something that looked, on the outside, like cruelty. I thought you didn't care, I said, voice breaking. All those nights. I thought you just didn't care enough to fix it. A tear slipped down his cheek. Just one. He didn't wipe it away. Every night you went to sleep hungry, he said, I hated myself. Every bill your grandmother couldn't pay, I knew I could fix with one phone call. But every time I almost did. I pictured someone following you home. Knocking on our door. Using you against me. I chose your safety over your comfort. And I know you may never forgive me for that. I looked at the ring on the table. The symbol of the life he had hidden. The life that had paid for everything, except our peace. I don't know if I forgive you, I said honestly. But for the first time, I understand you. He nodded, like that was all he had ever hoped for. Not forgiveness. Just understanding. And somehow, that hurt more. What he told me that night broke everything I thought I knew about my family. He had grown up in violence. In a world where the law looked the other way, and the streets made their own rules. He hadn't started as a boss. He had fought his way up, not for power, he claimed, but for control. To stop worse men from doing worse things. Someone was going to run this city, he said quietly. I decided it wouldn't be them. The money? There was plenty. Hidden in businesses, accounts, properties, enough to make our entire, poor, life look like a cruel joke. We were never poor, I said, my voice shaking. No, he answered. We weren't. Then why? I almost shouted. Why did we live like that? Why did Grandma cry over bills? Why did we go without? His eyes softened at the mention of her. Because, he said, I didn't want this life touching you. Or her. Money from this world always comes with a price. Enemies. Blood. Fear. I could lock the doors at night, but I couldn't lock away what I've done. The only way to keep you safe, was to let you grow up believing we had nothing worth taking. I thought of Grandma at the table. The coins. The tears. Did she know? I asked. He nodded. She begged me to leave it all behind. I tried. For a while. But men like me, we don't get clean exits. So we made a deal, I'd keep the family far from this world. Live simple. Stay small. Look poor. No fancy house. No shiny cars. Nothing that would make anyone wonder. I felt anger rising inside me. We suffered, I whispered. Yes, he replied. You did. And I carry that. The walk home that night felt like crossing two different worlds. Grandpa walked ahead of me, his shoulders a little heavier than before. When we reached the house, Grandma was waiting at the door, eyes wide with worry. You told him, she said quietly. He found me, he answered. They looked at each other in a way I had never seen before, tired, guilty, relieved. Later, Grandma made tea, the way she always did when there was something hard to say. I wanted to tell you when you were older, she said. But there's never a good age to tell a child that his grandfather is a criminal and a protector at the same time. I didn't speak. I just listened. That night, I lay in my small, familiar bed, but nothing felt familiar anymore. We were not poor. We had never been. We had lived in the shadow of a truth my grandparents thought would destroy us. Years have passed since that night. People still think we were just another struggling family at the edge of town. They don't know about the men in suits, the money locked away, or the decisions made behind steel doors. Sometimes, I still hear Grandma's coins in my memory. Sometimes, I still see my grandfather at the head of that table, calm and dangerous. But the part that stays with me most is something he said before we left that building. Remember, boy, money can make you feel rich. Secrets can make you feel safe. But neither will save your soul. We were never poor in money. We were poor in truth. And that, I've learned, is the most expensive kind of poverty of all.
Thank you for watching and listening to my stories.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe to Voice of Grandma.